Hello everyone. In this video we will learn about how to create a Chrome extension from scratch. So we will be creating a Chrome extension to check the web accessibility of a page and highlight all the violations. So we'll start with creating the directory structure. So we'll start with manifest.json. Let's talk a bit about manifest.json. So the manifest.json file contains the important information about extensions such as name, version, description, and the permissions. You can say manifest.json file is the backbone of any Chrome extension. So let's go ahead and populate this manifest.json. First, we need to uh, tell the manifest version, which is going to be 3. Manifest version is nothing but it's kind of an identifier for the schema of this manifest JSON. So if you are giving a certain version, you need to comply with the schema of that particular version. Now let's give it a name. We'll call it accessibility checker. So A11YX stands for accessibility. So let's call that. We'll give it a description. Let's call it a Chrome extension to check accessibility of web page. And to check the accessibility of a web page, we'll be using a third-party library called Xcore. So let's mention that as well. By using Xcore. So as you can see, I've already downloaded a minified version of the Xcore library. Next, let's add a version. Let's call it 1.0. Then we need to tell the permissions that we are going to need. So we are going to need 2 permissions. First is active tab. So using this permission, we'll get to know which one is the active tab. Knowing this is important because we need to run our script on the active tab and highlight all the accessibility violations. Second permission that we are going to need is the ability to run the script on that active tab. So we'll say scripting. And then we need to tell it about the action. And it is going to be an object where we need to say default pop-up. And this is nothing but a path to an HTML file which is going to open when you click on that extension. So let's call it popup.html. Okay. Now let's go ahead and populate this HTML file. This is going to be an HTML file. We'll use HTML5 to pre-generate some code for us. Let's give it a title, accessibility checker. So this HTML page is just going to have a button which will say check accessibility, and that's it. On click of that button, we'll perform the accessibility check. So let's call it check accessibility. Let's give it an ID of check button. Now let's style this page a bit. So we need to style our body, we need to style our button. So we'll have a background color. So I'll use some value which I have used previously and which looks nice. So I'll go ahead and quickly add those values over here. let's add some minimum width to our extension. UI will say 350 pixels. Similarly, we'll have some min height, let's say 150 pixel. Now first thing to style our button is we'll center align it, so let's call it position absolute. We'll have top 50%, left 50%. We'll transform it okay. Now let's give it a background color, so we'll give it slightly orangish background color, 1162.2, and let's add some nice padding to it, 36 pixel, 32 pixel. We'll add some font size, 16 pixel. Make the font bold, font weight bold, then border radius, no default borders. What else? Let's add some animation effect. So on hover we can say change the background color, so we'll say all of it 0.3 second and is 0 second. Let's add the text color as white, and I think this should be it. Let's add some minimum width of 250 pixel. Let's go ahead and quickly run this and see how our UI looks as of now. Yeah, let's add some cursor pointer and some hover effect. We'll just update the background color. Let's make it 42. Save it. Let's go back, and yeah, so this is how our extension will look like when loaded into the extension. So now our next job is to add the script which will perform the actual check. So let's call it popup.js. Okay, so let's first include it in our main file, HTML file. Okay, now let's start adding our code here. So what do we want to do? First we want to add an event listener to our button. So whenever we click on that button, we need to check the accessibility. So let's do that. What we'll do is we'll add an event listener or document for DOM content loaded, and when the DOM content is loaded, we'll look for our button. So let's say const check button, and this should be document.getElementById. We'll grab the button ID from here and we'll attach an event listener to this. Add event listener, click, and then we'll call a function called check accessibility. Okay, now we need to run this function check accessibility. So far so good. Great. Now when you run this code inside Chrome extension, you'll have access to this Chrome object which will have tabs which you can again query. To query you can pass it certain parameters, so we'll need the active one, so let's say active as true, and then we want it from the current window, so we'll also say true. Now this will give me an callback function which will be called with the tabs, and we need the first tab from it. tabs of 0. Now what we need to do is we need to run some script in this tab. So we'll say chrome.scripting.execute execute script, and here it takes again couple of arguments. First is target, on which tab you want to run. So this is going to be our tab.id, and then you can give it a function, or you can give it the file name itself, which is an array of files where your script is. So our first job is to load x.min.js. So we'll go ahead and run that JS file, and once it is loaded, then we'll run our custom function. Like once the x is loaded, we'll run the x function. So what we'll do is again we'll do same thing, chrome.scripting.execute script, and my tab id is going to be same, and this time I'll give it a function, and this is the function where I'll be performing all the checks. So here I'll be doing x.run. Now x is the library that we are using to perform the accessibility check, and the first argument that it takes is the where you want to run this check on. So actually I want to run on the complete document itself. You can give it some other section of your page, like document dot, let's say, select by a particular id, and it will perform check only on that particular section. But for now I'll go ahead with complete document itself. So the first parameter is going to be document, and then it will take a callback function which will have our error and results. So if there is some error due to which it was not able to perform the check, in that case we'll just log our error and return. Else what we'll do is we'll get the violations. So we need to highlight we'll highlight those violations. So we'll have results dot violations, which is an array actually, because there will be multiple violations, so it gives us an array. So now let's call it violation, and each violation can happen for multiple nodes, so you will get an array of nodes as well. And now for each node we want to highlight them. Okay, so for each violation we'll get the reason why did it fail, so that you can access using failure summary. And then each node will have a target associated with it, which is again the selectors. So which is again an array, so we'll do a join by this. So this is going to be my selector, using which I can select all the elements which are violating the rules. So let's say document dot query select all, and this is going to be my selector. Now in elements we'll have all the elements which is matching these selections. So for each element we are going to highlight them. First what we'll do is we'll add a title attribute to it, so that when we hover on it we get to see the reason why it is what is the reason of failure here. And then let's highlight them by adding some CSS style. So let's say style dot border, and we'll say 2 pixel solid red, and that's it. Let's see what happens if we upload this code to our extension. We have our purpose.js, we have already included it, we have a small HTML. So let's go ahead and start using it. So what we'll do is we'll go to manage extensions. Here you need to turn on your developer mode on, and once you turn that on, you'll see a button called load unpacked, and this is the folder where I have all my uh, code. It is giving me some error. Let's quickly check it. What it is saying, unrecognized manifest key actions. Actually it's just action and not actions, so we'll fix that. Save it, clear this, go back, let's reload it all again. Now it's reloaded, there is no error. You can see we are getting the name of the extension, the version, the description that we gave. You can also give it some nice icon in manifest.json, and it will start appearing here. So now let's go ahead and check our extension if it is working or not. So let's come here, and you can see it's appearing here, and you can see the extension is coming over here. So let's go to some page and check the accessibility of it. Let's go on Chrome extension page itself. Chrome extension API, open something, and let's try to, okay, not this one, documentation, and let's see if this has some violations. So I'll go ahead and run this, and I'll click on check accessibility. So see, now it's highlighting some of the elements here. So let's see what's wrong here. We'll hover on it, and it's saying fix any of the following. ARIA rule search is not allowed for given element. Let's hover here. ARIA attribute value, ARIA expanded is equal to this, so this has some invalid ARIA attributes. Alright, so this looks good. What I'm going to do is I'll add a page over here, and let's see which will have some violations which I have pre-built, and I'm going to add it over here. So let's see, I have here Chrome extension. I'll open this code over here. So I'll go ahead and run this page. I can't run it. Okay, let's just reveal in a finder. Can I open it with another VS Code? Yeah, then why it's not running? Okay, let's copy the content over here. We'll create test.html. I'll paste the content here, and then I'll run this page. Okay, so now I have a page which has bunch of violations, and I'll go ahead and get our extension and run this. And yeah, you see it's violating all those violations. It is highlighting. We can hover on them, and we can kind of see what is wrong here. So it says some page content is not contained by landmarks. Yeah, we can go to any random page, and we can check if it has some violations or not. Let's see if google.com has some violations. It does. Let's hover on it. Okay, okay, so yeah, this result may not be perfect. We might need to tweak the Xcore configuration, but the idea was to show you how to build an Chrome extension. So yeah, this is how you can build a Chrome extension. If you like the video, please share it with others. That's all for this video. Thank you.